Concerning the woman suffering in childbearing. Concerning the woman, God has ordained suffering or pain in childbearing. The suffering in childbearing includes both pregnancy and delivery. The entire matter of childbearing, including pregnancy and delivery, is a matter of pain. It was not originally destined this way by God before the fall. However, due to the fall, God ordained a portion of suffering for the woman, the leader in the fall. You may ask why God ordained suffering firstly to the woman and secondly to the man. God did this because the woman took the lead in transgressing God's prohibition. Thus, God came to her first. That was fair. If God had gone to Adam, Adam would have said, Lord, don't come to me. I was not the leader in the fall. You must go to the leader. Thus, God came to Eve first. Why do some women limit their childbearing? Because they want to enjoy a free life. That is against God's way. We all know that childbearing is troublesome, but it was ordained by God as a restriction. The best protection to an unrestricted young woman is to have a number of children. Although neither the woman's parents, husband, nor in-laws can restrict her, as long as she has some children, these children will limit her undue freedom. Children are a restriction and a protection to their mothers. Thus, Paul wanted the young women to marry and bear children, that they might not be idle or busybodies. The ruling of the husband. The Lord also told Eve that her husband shall rule over her. According to this word, every sister should be under the rule of her husband. Why did Eve fall? Because she did not care for her husband and assumed his headship. Therefore, God seemed to say to her, Eve, from now on I appoint Adam to rule over you. Although this is a difficult word to accept, the Bible tells us that a woman must be ruled by her husband. We all must take this word as a security and protection. The ruling of the husband is a genuine safeguard to the wife. Hence, in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 11 to 12, Paul says, Let a woman learn in quietness in all subjection. But I do not permit a woman to teach or to exercise authority over a man. Paul's teaching on this matter is based upon God's ordination in Genesis 3:16. I hope that the sisters will take heed to this divine word of the Bible. Concerning the man, the ground growing thorns and thistles. Concerning the man, the ground grows thorns and thistles. Many of you are not farmers and may think that you can escape from the ground. However, regardless of the kind of job or profession you may have, your job or profession is the ground. In the whole earth, there is not one job or profession that is without hardship. In every occupation, the ground grows thorns and thistles. Some may say that I will never be hired by others. I will go into business for myself. If you say this, after a few years, you will not want to be in business any longer. You will feel like giving up your business because instead of producing dollars, it grows thorns and thistles. In every kind of employment, in schools, factories, markets, and offices, it seems easy for the ground to grow thorns and thistles. Several years ago, I met a brother who is a fruit farmer. I thought that it would be wonderful to be a farmer, but the brother told me many stories about the difficulties with his farm. Such difficulties are ordained by God. Young people, you must realize that this is God's ordination. God told Adam that the ground would grow thorns and thistles, that he had to suffer pain and toil, sorrow, sweat, and labor during his whole life. God has said that man must endure sorrow, pain, sweat, and labor during his entire life. Thus, man must labor, sweat, and suffer. Yet, labor and suffering are a protection to fallen man. If a man is not occupied with certain labor, it is easy for him to fall into sin. All men need to be occupied with some form of labor that they may be kept from doing sinful things. For many men, labor itself is not a sufficient safeguard. They need some sufferings. Hence, labor along with sufferings often prevents people from doing evil. returning to the ground. After the fall, God also ordained that man should not live forever, but that he should die, returning to the ground. However, this does not mean that man must perish, because God, in his dealing with man, has afforded man the way of salvation. In God's dealing with both the man and the woman, there are sufferings, but no necessary perdition. Nevertheless, if man will not take God's way of salvation, he surely will perish after death. Death is also a restriction that God has placed over fallen man. Several years ago, I gave a message which covered three subjects: suffering, sleeping, and dying. None of these items seems to be good, and I do not care for any of them. I would like to be a person who never suffers, who does not need to sleep, and who lives forever. But we must understand that suffering, sleeping, and dying are restrictions upon sinful people. If Hitler was still living and were to continue living another 500 years, he would be the greatest devil that the earth has ever seen. While I was in Manila more than 20 years ago, people spoke to me about a certain evil person. I told them, don't be bothered. Let him be as bad as he can be. I assure you that he cannot continue for another 10 years. I do not expect him to change for the good, but I am quite certain that after 10 years he will die. Soon afterward, I would read in the newspaper that this person had died. Suffering restricts people. Sleeping stops people. And dying terminates people. If you go to Hong Kong, you will hear the mahjong playing. None of the mahjong players like to sleep. They prefer to play mahjong day and night for 72 hours without resting. However, after 72 hours, there's no need for their wives to stop them. Sleep conquers them. Thus, regardless how bad a person may be, he will first be stopped by sleep, and then he will be terminated by death. Sleeping is a small dying, and dying is a greater sleeping. On this earth today, there is not one evil person who is 150 years of age. All the evil ones of the past 150 years are dead and buried. God has used death to clear up the earth. In a sense, death is a suffering for man. Yet man does not realize that it is truly God's way of protecting him.